Welcome to People Doing Good for Others, where we celebrate and praise and hold in the light those who are truly making significant differences in our communities. I'm Gary York, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be with you. We want to thank Wilkes Communications and RiverStreet Productions and 100.9 WIFM for their sponsorship. Our featured guest today is Ms. Pam Huffman. She's the principal at West Wilkes Middle School, a career educator, a tremendous advocate for public education, families, and communities. And good morning to you.
Good morning, Gary.
Thank you, Ms. Huffman, for honoring us in a special way today. And as part of your life, you have talked to me several times about the influence of your dad. His name is George Harris.
That's
and
correct.
that'd be a good way for us to get to know one another, if you will. Let's talk about those tremendous gifts he gave you.
My dad, he made many choices when I was young with his career. I have a younger brother, and he allowed my mom to stay at home with us as far as with the child care during the day. But my dad worked at, it was the pipe factory, or Dr. Graybo, at the time.
Sparta?
In Sparta.
Okay.
And then at night, he was a woods craftsman, and he would actually build cabinets. He built roll-top desks, anything along those lines, grandfather clocks, hutches. He could do that. He was very gifted in that way. And he didn't start from a blueprint, he created the blueprint. And I saw him many times. I've got his first grandfather clock he ever made, and I've got next to the last grandfather clock he ever made. And when he made the last one for me, and that was, I think, in 1991, it's next to the last one. I just took one of those Emperor clock books, and I said, Dad, I like the bonnet on this one, I like the work part on this one, I like this over here. And he ended up and he pieced it together, and it's just beautiful. But the best thing about my dad was his work ethic. And I will tell you, my dad had a very strong work ethic. He was the one who was the breadwinner for our family, and he knew he had to go to work every day. And he didn't mind that at all. He didn't begrudge that, but you know, I've watched him many of time in his cabinet shop when he'd start a set of cabinets for someone. And if that base was not correct, back then I think they used 2x4s to start the bases, but if it was not perfectly square with that square, he'd bust that set apart and he'd start all over again, because he knew that he was beginning with the end in mind, that it had to be square when it went into that house in order for it to work. And you know, he was always like that. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. And the influence of your wonderful husband, Gary Huffman. Let's speak to his special role, if you will.
My husband has always been an encourager. I've been very blessed and fortunate that he supported me. And he's probably the one that kept dropping a little comment every now and then. Well, you know, if you just go on back to school, if you really are passionate and you really like teaching, then go ahead and get your teaching degree. And then it was, okay, you really like what you're doing, and I was able at Mountain View Elementary to obtain some leadership roles with the Terrific Kid program. And
Kiwanis Club.
Absolutely. And
well, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. So, and you know, they've helped and supported that program for a lot of years.
Yeah. Ken Nolan's the key role player in that, and we're good friends.
So,
yeah.
But you know, even through that, I was encouraged, and my husband, my husband,
and challenged, you
absolutely,
said. Yeah.
Because he would say, you know, well, why can't you know, he never let me sit there and say, well, you know, I'm not very good at something. He's always been like, but I think you could. Let's talk about how we could make that happen if that's something you really want to do. So, I mean, that was true, and I started as a non-traditional student.
Yep.
I worked my way from Wilkes Community College up to Appalachian State Universities, so I have my associate's degree from Wilkes Community. my bachelor's degree from Appalachian. I was blessed to go back and get an administrative degree. I had some encouragement with that too from Kay Lamb and Debbie Love along the way, Dr. Tharp. And then I also got my master's through Gardner-Webb University, and I'm still taking a few classes now and then.
Pam Huffman, tell us about this first career with Burger King.
I just started as a crew member, needed a job. And I will tell you that when I first started working at Burger King, I actually started Wilkes Community College, and I didn't like my major at that time, and I didn't finish at that time. So I started, working there, and I just continued working up through management, and I was able to become an hourly manager at the time, an assistant manager at the time, a restaurant manager at the time, and then I became a training manager. So I did have the certification to teach the food service classes that are required now by your health department.
Sure.
And, some also basic management training classes for corporate and franchise.
And you came back, you in time became a principal, and you had you talked about a Dr. Stocks, the role he played.
Dr. Stocks, when I went into administration, he and I were both brand new. He was the principal and I was the assistant principal. And there are lots of things that I've taken with me and take with me every day that I've learned from him. One of the things in particular was really about communication and how important it is. Since the two of us were brand new going into a school, one thing we had to do was listen and learn.
Listen. Wow.
Absolutely. And when I say listen, the first thing that we did was he, set up interviews with every single employee and, wanted to know what they were passionate about their school, what their love was, and then, what's something that they would want to change. Everybody has something they'd like to change, but sometimes trying to really figure out those things that, what is it you really love? And that's when you figure out what is the culture of that school, because you can put your hand on it. And it's funny because I actually followed him back as principal. I'd left there for 3 years and went to CBL as principal, and then came back as the principal at West Middle. And when I came back, I tried to do those same interviews and that same thing, and it was funny because he and I had a conversation after that, and I said, do you remember what the number one thing was that the teacher said that they wanted help with, and that staff did? And we could to that day, because they were individual interviews.
Having a plan.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, well, this one thing was taken care of. I said, because it's not in, it wasn't mentioned repeatedly over and over. And those are good moments, because that's, sometimes you don't know if you've accomplished really what you set out to, but at that time you can see that you have.
How about working as a team? How does the impact of team to success? I'm just a big advocate of people working together and the synergy. I saw there on your mission statement. You want to pull that up for us, and let's give us a little, if you will, about this prop, if you will.
This is actually my mission statement. We started with a program last year called Leader in Me. The Leader in Me, and it's actually the lead in middle schools. And it's a Franklin Covey process, but it's based around 7 highly effective habits. And so one of the first things that we had to do that's really hard sometimes is really to get down what is your mission statement. So this is actually mine. I took this idea from a staff member, but mine is with courage. And it doesn't matter if I was working at Walmart, if I was working here at RiverStreet Productions, or where I was at WIFM. With courage, I'm here to value, to serve, and encourage others to grow as individuals and develop leadership skills. And it doesn't matter if that's a student, but to me, this is me. It wouldn't matter where I was at. I feel like that's what I need to do. And I brought some, if you don't mind me showing and sharing in a second.
Sure.
But also the 7 habits.
This is your show, Ms. Huffman.
Well, I thank you for inviting
me.
These are the 7 highly effective habits that we're trying to embed within our students. And someone asked one day, they said, why do you want to do that in middle school? Why would you not want to do that in high school? And I think that one of the things that our public needs to understand is our students as middle schoolers are doing so many more things that we did as a high school student that they need that extra support with. Like, for example, our 7th graders this year, they are attending and doing some walkthroughs through Wilkes Early College High School, and then they will go ahead and have that process in their mind. When they get into 8th grade, though, it changes very drastically, because like right now, about this time of the year, they will begin applying as 8th graders for Early College High School.
Early college, wow.
And you know, that is where that they can go, and if they choose 5 years, they can leave there, and they will have a 2-year degree plus their high school diploma. And that's just so important. But the other part of it that I don't think that people understand about why our middle schoolers need so much support is that's a transition part in development to begin with. Okay. And then the second thing is when they apply, they go through an application process. That's the first thing. This is why their 7th graders have to become involved, because they're going to be looking at their grades from 7th grade, their attendance from 7th grade. Now, most of us, when we applied for something, we applied as juniors and seniors in high school, not as a 7th or 8th grader. And then they'll go through the interview process probably about February. In March or April, those same students will get acceptance letters or denial letters. And it's really important for our students to know how to handle things like that. It doesn't mean that you know, you're not good enough to go there. It just means we only have so many spots, and you may not have been selected for that. And the other thing is trying to teach students that, you know, when one door closes, another one will open, and it may be a better opportunity for you than you had before, you just can't see. Right. So our 7 habits are actually being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first, think win-win. This is the one that I have to work on a lot, and it's the one I started talking about, but it's seek first to understand in order to be understood.
Listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Synergize, that's what you spoke about earlier.
That. Oh, yeah.
And then sharpen and at West Middle we say sword because we're the Knights. And then there is an 8th habit, and I look at my role as a leader as that 8th habit: find your voice and inspire others to find theirs.
Inspire others.
And I think that's what I need to do. But I brought also some students out of a classroom, and I took a 6th grade, and I want to share with you this morning what some of their very first mission statements are. So to begin with, this one, and they had a format that they went through, but this is Riley Howes, and she wrote, "I will do everything with 100%. I love to draw and color, and I will not let anyone change that. I won't let anyone bring me down. I will always treat everyone with respect. I will always have the 7 habits in mind." So we're trying to cultivate that. And again, this one's much shorter. It's as long or as short because you own it. It's not me to tell you what to do, it's you own it. Do life big, don't get down, keep your head up high, just do it. Wow. So that was Madison Green. And then Haley Wagner wrote, "I will be more godly using my lovely soul to create loving people. And doing so, I will always achieve being strong."
How wonderful. Let's go back to West Wilkes Middle and just an oversight. How big is it? I mean, staff, Mark Bird. Just talk about your school, please.
We have about 538 students. That's what our demographics are.
Tell us where it is.
It's up at 421 and 16. Take a right on to 16, and it's the first school up there on the left. Okay. We have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We have an awesome staff, an inviting office staff also. And our custodians, to our bus drivers, to our cafeteria staff, everyone tries to make certain that they're doing what's in the students' best interest.
Team before me.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
And you mentioned that earlier. I mean, I will tell you, one of the things that and you mentioned Mark Bird, our superintendent, one of the things that our county is working on this year is most of us are doing the book study of, it's called Mindset. You can see this book is tattered. There's a neat one down there on the floor, but
Used.
it is.
Good for you.
That basically goes into growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And our staff is really pondering, are we growth or are we fixed? And growth mindset goes into, you've heard the expression before, why change something if it's not broken?
Sure.
Or why fix it if it's not broken?
Sure.
Sometimes it's not about fixing it. It's just about how to make it better.
Sure.
You don't need to change it.
There's always opportunity.
Right. And that's more what growth mindset's about.
Okay. Pam Huffman, you had a wounded warrior part of your efforts at West Wilkes Middle. Let's talk about that a little bit, if you will.
We had, each year we do a veterans program, and
Now, these are outreach generated by our students.
Right.
To matter in the community.
Right.
Okay.
Each year, our veterans program is sponsored all by our students. I mean, they conduct the program. Each year they decide what project for something to do with veterans that they'll take on. One year it was a sock. It was a sock promotion, and we tried to bring in as many pairs of socks. Another year it was boots. In addition to that, this year I had 2 students who came and wanted to take an educational trip and shared with me that they were going to be with Wounded Warriors Outdoors. And they had created, these are the 2 PowerPoints that they created. But one of the things was they would present their PowerPoints to their classes when they got back in return, but they also had to present it to me. So I couldn't get in the classroom when they were presenting, but I was so proud of them because this is what makes the Leader in Me and the Lead such an important program, because you need to find what those students are passionate about and where they're good leaders at, and then let them go, because they will succeed. And these 2 girls, they went, it's like a hunt.
Yeah.
And it's in Florida, and while they're there, they were cooking for them, they were serving for them.
Really?
And the other thing is about, any of the game that they I guess, kill or whatever.
Yep.
That it's all processed and used, so it's not like there's waste in it.
Okay.
And I thought that was neat for the
It is.
students to come back and tell me. But they would say, like this one was, the chefs, they were proactive because the chefs would cook the meals way before the hunters would get back, so that when they got back, the food would be ready for them. There were also some of those, they could sit there and they had taken a picture, and I don't know which one of the PowerPoints is actually in right now, but they sat there and they went through every single one of those wounded warriors with us. This one, was hit with a bullet here. This one is missing a limb. This one's missing a leg. And they were so passionate about it. And they will tell you the great things about those people and what they've learned from them. And
The
I
students
think,
came back with
absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
The takeaway from this effort.
Yeah. So I'm real proud of them.
Let's, I like this sponsorship about churches and the involvement in the community with your school. Touch on that.
We have been very blessed and fortunate. We have churches sometimes that will sponsor things for our staff. They might do for teacher appreciation, a meal for them. But the biggest thing right now that our churches and just individuals are pouring out support for is to make certain that students have Christmas and they have Thanksgiving. And our staff is, sometimes people don't always tell you what they need. I'll give you an example. Before Thanksgiving, our counselor went out to do a home visit, and she just casually asked, you know, are you going to be in town for Thanksgiving? And they had said, well, yes, they'd be in town, that they had no special plans. They wouldn't be doing Thanksgiving because it's so expensive. And let me tell you, within the next 2 days, there were enough people that had figured out, we'd gotten word out, we needed sponsorship for a family, and I mean, it was on, and that's the same way
So
with
you have a
clothing.
community school.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
yes.
West Wilkes Middle is it's the core of the community.
Absolutely.
Families. Wow. I want to talk about effective teachers, and I'm a big fan of you. I know you're Sam Yount, and Teacher of the Year, and we've had some times together. So, if you will, you talked about great relationship builders. Let's just talk about some of those core assets of good teachers, and we have lots of them.
We do. The very first thing that's the most important to any student is having trust and respect for that teacher. And that is so important. It doesn't matter, that takes out the socioeconomical status or anything from a student. It doesn't matter how much money or how little money a family has. If that teacher treats them with respect and that student knows that, that relationship is built from day one in that classroom. And they will know that, you know, I can trust that teacher. If that teacher tells me, you know, that this paper needs to be turned in on this day, it needs to be turned in on that day. But also, if something happens at my home that night, the previous night, I need to go to that teacher, let them know that, and ask for an extension that day because this. But the other thing they'll learn is they also have to pull their end of the deal.
Okay.
So if they say that, hey, look.
That's two ways.
Absolutely. But, you know, that's something that is so important. And it's not, educators are not there to see who has, I guess, the most authority. You're not there in a power struggle. You're there to help those students.
Yeah.
And that's what great educators, they know that.
Time and time again, as I share with teachers, administrators, car lines. And that's such a important part of your career and your life, and giving and sharing and caring with youngsters and their families. Let's talk about the things we learn in the car line.
You can learn what kind of morning that student has had. And I will tell you, I love doing the car line. Some people that might not be their thing, but that doesn't bother me at all.
Let's explain. It's being out when the students come with a caregiver driving, and the student's going to get out, or students get
Right.
out of a car, and someone is bringing them to school.
Absolutely.
All right.
And, you know, some people might say, well, a middle schooler can open their own door. They can. But you know what? If I'm there, that's my first opportunity to say good morning to them, and that's their first opportunity to let me know what kind of day they've had, and we're going to have a good day. And, you know, you also learn some things about their parents or the caregiver, as you said. We have so many grandparents who step in as a role as a parent now.
Huge role.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And then the other thing is that's an opportunity that someone, they may never pick up a phone call and call you. A phone and call you, but they would be more than willing to say, hey, Miss Huffman, there's one more thing I need to let you know about today. Or do you think you could check on this for me and get back to me? And they do that with our counselors and also with our staff that's out there. So I had a little
So the
guy.
car line is just an integral part of the education process.
It is.
Yeah.
Lots of people get frustrated in the car line, but everybody just needs to be patient. They also need to realize, though, that's those students, we need to make certain that they're safe.
Yeah,
So
safe.
just
Well,
be calm.
The little story you told me about the man, tell me about him in the green car.
There was a grandparent, and the first year I was back at West Middle, he would come through there, and I wave at folks. I can't imagine just standing out there. To me, that would be very boring, but if I'm waving at them, you know, most folks, they wave back. But, you know, he was sort of reserved there for a while. And so at the beginning it was I finally got a finger going up, you know. And then he finally got a few fingers off the steering wheel, you know. But by the 3rd year that he left there, I loved seeing him every day, and his hand was going up. And, you know,
Wow.
if I saw that person out in the public now, I would love to just throw my hand up and wave at him, because he doesn't realize every day how much that little drive through the car line to drop that student off makes.
Yeah.
It makes their day.
Pam Huffman is the principal of West Wilkes Middle. I sense a tremendous interest in people when I speak to you, that you love the things that you do, and you love the team and the opportunity there to give and to share. So there was a John Wooden quote that I thought was such a power part of the person that you are. Can you share that with us?
I can, and that actually came out of the Carol Dweck mindset book that we're reading as a countywide study. But he actually, and he was a legendary basketball coach and
Yes.
player, and he says you're not a failure until you start to blame. And really what he means by that is you're always receptive to listening and improving yourself until you begin blaming others for your mistakes or why you're not as good as what you could have been.
Right.
And I think that's just real powerful, because if we get to where we can focus on just being a little bit better, just being a little bit better, just
Yeah.
being a little bit better,
Right.
it's not about us, but it's about those that are around us and making things better for them.
I want to thank Wilkes Communications for this opportunity, and RiverStreet Productions and WIFM. And I want to thank you for your willingness to be open and to matter in a special way. And I hope you'll come again and share your gratitude for us.
I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I've had. There have been so many people that have encouraged and opened up doors just by that little bit of encouragement. And that's why I know that those seeds are just so important.
We're known by the seeds we plant.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. You know, the other thing is I brought these items this morning because this is what we're about.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing. And the other thing is, you know, sometimes we're successful or our students are successful. That's when as the
Yeah.
adults, we're
Yeah.
successful. It's about them and not about us. And I do want to share the mission statements I gave you a minute ago.
Yeah.
This is the classroom teacher's mission statement.
Okay.
And it is, my mission as a teacher is to create a classroom in which students feel loved and challenged, and where they develop an enthusiasm for science and social studies. And then she also has a personal one on there. And listen to this, and I asked permission to share this too. My mission in life is to act justly, to show mercy, and walk humbly. I will treat each day as a gift by finding something positive in every situation and not worrying about the future. And she posts that for all her parents and all her students to see. And I can learn so much by those around me, my students and my teachers.
Thank you for honoring us in a special way today.
Thank you.
We've been 30 minutes with Ms. Pam Huffman, who believes that at her West Wilkes Middle School that love and caring, listening and encouragement will always matter. And she's building a great legacy for us, and I'm so happy for her to be with us today, and we hope that you'll come back with us next time. Thank you very much.